All righty, gentlemen. Hello, hello, hello. I didn't have any opening
Hello.
because I said on the spur of the moment, let's go live because we were talking about the weather
Yeah.
and we've survived the weather, or at least Lee, you've survived the weather.
Well, we all survived, but
We all survived.
yeah.
So
We're
how's,
also we're also talking about this cool thing we got going here visually with the blue, amber, and red here. So we almost
yeah.
look like a traffic light. So
Yeah, exactly. That's what I
pretty
was
cool.
thinking. Maybe I could turn myself
We need
green
a
and
green.
move Clarence to the top and then we would be a traffic light.
Good stuff.
Anyway, Batasha's here.
Hi, Tasha.
Hello, 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 Miss Tasha. How art thee? So, guys, I know we were talking about ourselves surviving the weather, but as we're talking before we get recording or literally into the podcast, we're streaming. But for anyone in Florida or surrounding areas who are being impacted right now by the weather, our thoughts, our prayers, our good wishes, or whatever that might be, and safekeeping is going out to everyone.
Yeah. No
100%.
kidding.
Indeed.
Well, they're talking about this being a historic event. Is what I'm hearing meteorologists say over and over.
Mm.
Historic. So yeah.
You
And
know,
also for the people in Florida right now,
yeah.
if people that went through it and people that's finna get it again,
Yeah, that's
crazy.
right. It's that's true. They've just had it.
Yeah. It's amazing how the weather is cycler into some degrees.
Mm,
Lee, you and I were talking about cycles of something else earlier before we started recording. But weather, it
mm.
seems like there are some years where there's hardly not any hurricanes. And then
Right.
you're thinking about one, two, three coming right after the other. I'm thinking about 2005, Katrina came through.
Hmm.
And then a couple of weeks later, we had another one come through that went to Texas, and
Hmm.
impacted Texas. So,
That's right.
regardless of where you are in space and time, we are wishing you all the best in weather and, positivity all the way
Right.
around. But with that said, I think let's get right into the reason that we are here, which means I get to say, here we go again. The Discussing Network presents Discussing Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Kyle Jones, and I want to start this episode this week by welcoming back Clarence Brown. Mr. Brown, how are you?
I'm doing well, and as always, glad to be back here with you guys. Hope everybody is safe through all the storms and everything, and and the people that are bracing themselves right now for what's coming. So, yeah, just glad to be here and be in good health and be here with you guys.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And, for Discussing Who, what always makes it a sunny, happy day is when I can get to say, Lee Shackelford, welcome back. Good sir. How are you? How's
I
that
think.
for? How's that for a segue?
Wow. No kidding. I think you're thinking of Sesame Street, but still. Um. Yeah. Yeah. I'm good.
I
What
left you
I
speechless with that one.
exactly. I'm kind of what? But yeah, I'm in Western North Carolina, where people around me are still. I mean, I think there's still what I heard the other day. There's still 1 million people in this area without power.
Hmm.
And I live close to the regional airport here, which they're using as a staging center for getting supplies to up to Asheville and so on. And the helicopters go over night and day, and it's actually pretty cool. You know, every time I hear one of those go over, I say, "You go, guys." It's just so really we're all safe and sound. My family, we're all good, but. Wow. Every time I hear one of those helicopters, I think we are very fortunate right here. So, anyway, and glad to be back here talking about Torchwood and this episode, which I remembered from 18 years ago as being controversial.
Mm.
So, it'll be
Yep.
fun to talk about.
And I want our friend Wingrace to remind me at the end of our discussion. He posted in the chat, I had entirely forgotten the extra character who appears at the end of this episode. If we do not bring that up, Wingrace, please remind me again at the end of the episode so that I can bring that up because I want to know what you're talking about.
Keep us honest.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. That being said, guys, I posted in the chat. I want to go back to Doctor Who just for a second.
Hmm.
I have started doing what I always do when a season ends of Doctor Who or series ends, going back and rewatching. But I have been over the past weekend going from the Star Beast all the way up to I'm to Boom now. So I've watched them in order, and I picked up on a couple of things. Number one, in the giggle, spoilers by the way, in the giggle, in the first reference to the one who waits, the toy maker specifically says, and it's a statement that we don't even really, I think, pay attention to because it didn't mean anything to us. But he specifically says, "I have seen him hiding."
Hmm.
And we know he was hiding. I mean,
Yeah.
from the end. So again, I think that's interesting going back and picking up on these little tidbits as we go along. So
Yeah.
anyway,
There was a long game.
there was a long game, and I'm further into my speculation that once we see the next series, more of that ending that we didn't quite get with the finale might have a little bit more context, of course, as we get into season 2. Just saying.
Interesting. Yeah.
But guys, do you guys, either of you, have anything before we get into our review?
Not I.
Not I, not I. All right. So, with that being said, if you have not seen Cyberwoman, put us on pause, go out, watch the episode, come back because from this moment forward, spoilers. Alrighty, the spoiler warning has gone out, and we are back to review Cyberwoman. This is the 4th episode of the first series of Torchwood, first airing on BBC Three on the 5th of November, 2006. So, some review, Lee Shackelford, what say you?
Not a favorite. Not a favorite episode of mine, and I haven't rewatched it. I think in a long, long time. So I had to be reminded why. Um, a hot cyber woman seems like that should be my cup of tea, but turns out it's not. And I remembered a comment that somebody in social media made back in 2006. Back in sort of the protoplasmic days of what we now call social media. But I just remember somebody saying this had better be the worst Torchwood ever because it's only episode 4, and if it doesn't get better from here, I quit. And their thinking was we were promised that this is not Doctor Who. And a lot of us thought that means we're not going to do Monster of the Week and we're not going to do Base Under Siege. And by God, this is both of those.
Yeah.
So, there we are. And 18 years later, I'm going, yep.
There we were.
Yeah, there you are. You're right. So,
all right.
Anyway, that's my hot take.
And that's all right then.
Yeah.
Clarence Brown.
I think I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. I don't think. I love Yanto's position in all of this. I think was pretty interesting. He had to do a lot in this episode. I love that we didn't focus on Gwen that much here. It was his episode to shine. So in that aspect, I really liked it. I think the idea of a cyber woman probably looked better on paper because we've already seen cyber women before. I mean, they're called cyber
Yeah.
men, but of course,
Right.
But just the connection that is had from Yanto, and I don't know. I think I like the connections that we get with the Doctor Who proper, and it left me wondering, like, when did this episode come out in relation to some of the other things that happened in the show proper? So that aspect had me wondering a little bit too. But overall, I think I didn't hate it. I don't know if I loved it, but maybe you guys can talk me up or down. We'll see.
All right. So again, I have only gone back and watched this episode. This is my second time seeing it. From the very first run through, this is second time seeing it. And from what I remember was all of the episodes of Torchwood. My collective memory is some of them are scary, some of them are sexy, some of them are gross, and this one is funny.
Oh, is it campy to you?
You know,
Ouch.
and
Well, yeah.
that's my memory of it. Now, I don't necessarily get the funny that I remembered it being. So in 2006, I thought it was funny.
Wow.
This one, I see it more so as Base Under Siege, Monster of the Week, and a plot that tried to do something that didn't hit the mark. That's how I feel like it tried to do, and it did its best to do, but it didn't do. And we'll get into that.
Just didn't work.
Just didn't work. But let's talk about this idea, Clarence. You said we've seen Cyberwomen before. What do you think about the design of the Cyberwoman? Take it away. I'm not going to add any more context. What do you think of the design?
Well, as I look at the picture here you have up on the video, it looks pretty bad. Not in motion. Not in motion, it looks pretty bad. But when watching on the screen, I thought it was interesting. Very much, as you said, playing up the sexy vibes. Let's show as much skin as possible, either for the sex appeal or to say this is barely a cyber woman,
Yeah.
which done well in that aspect. But yeah, the costume itself definitely felt like they were playing up the sexy. I thought it was interesting, and it made me think of some of the future Doctor Who episodes that happened after this. But that being said, I thought it was an interesting design.
Okay, Lee.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that qualifies it as camp. She's got heels, for God's sake.
Yeah.
It's and everything that we've seen of the Cybermen before is that they're identical. So at what point does a woman who's being converted lose her breasts? Well, it's certainly after this point, because she's got cyber armor that somehow emphasizes her chest. It's like,
Yeah.
what? That
Second
just
time.
doesn't. It just doesn't even. Yeah, and I'm not complaining. Yeah. If you're taking this seriously at all, you have to say, well, what would be the point of that? Why? And the heels. It just. I don't know. So you feel like the show is playing with us, that it's not taking the audience seriously.
And that's where I think I got some of the camp and the funniness of it from the first time. Clarence, you made reference to them referring to Doctor Who in this episode. We see a character in the Battle of Canary Wharf with the Cybermen and the Daleks at that end of that season or series, actually, who was a female character, get turned into a cyber person, Cyberman, whatever. And you know who this character is. You know this character was female, and it side by side with another Cyberman, you wouldn't have known the difference.
No.
But where do you go from having Brunhilde breastplates to to looking like a Cyberman?
Exactly.
And I wonder if this was to I'm not sure the word I'm looking for, but to entice the young male viewers to say, oh, this is not your regular Doctor Who. And this is, was that part of the strategy here?
I could see that. Yeah. And she evokes other feminized figure robots of the past, including cinema's first robot in Metropolis.
Yep.
That's kind of who she looks like. And so it doesn't, and as Clarence said, part of what the idea here is that it should look like it's not too late to get Lisa back, somehow, and that we just need to get the rest of this stuff off of her.
Yeah.
I guess timeline wise, we've already seen the Borg um, over on that other show. We've seen that people can be deborgified. So, we're kind of hoping that that's what's can happen here. I,
And maybe you just hit on something because trying to, in my head, and Clarence, you may can help me out here for the air dates, but this is either right along the same time
It's
or it's after
it's
Voyager, isn't it?
it's definitely after,
Y-
because that was
mm,
7 and 9 probably came on around 98,
98,
a few
got you.
years
yeah,
in. Yeah, and
But
it started
very
right there.
Seven of Nine ish vibes if you look at it from that perspective,
right.
Yeah, the
you
Mm,
hills
know?
yeah,
too. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, that's right. This could have been Jerry Ryan in there. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And I can't help but, and we're, we'll go a little bit beyond the surface into deeper into the conversation, but a little bit that that's where they're going because the actor that they cast in there was very photogenic. She was
mhm,
looked very pretty even in the Cyberman armor. Uh,
Yeah.
sure.
so obviously where they were going. Let me ask you this. Let's talk. I said I was going to go a little bit deeper. And Clarence, I want to ask you this question. Did you feel the emotional beats of this episode? Meaning, did you feel for the main cast?
I mean, other than Yanto, not. I think it was par for the course for everybody other than Yanto. Definitely an instance of us seeing him, the kind of the covers peeled back on him a little bit more. He's been the cleaner,
Mm.
he's been the fixer, he's been the Olivia Pope of this show up until now, and from all indications, it's not like he's been that interactive with anybody else. They really, to me, they know as much about him as they know about Jack, which isn't much,
That's
seemingly.
right.
So it was definitely a moment for the covers to be peeled back from him, and not in a good way. Um, there were several moments where Jack really puts it to him, and puts his feet up against the fire, and what team are you on, um, and probably a good reason if you're hiding a cyber person down in the basement. So
Oh, he
yeah,
is prepared to kill him. He
yes,
Mm-hmm.
has a gun to his head.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Mm. Lee, what do you think? Did you feel the emotional beats? There's a specific reason I'm asking this question because I want to follow it up with another. But curious, did you feel the emotional beats?
yeah, absolutely. And it does put the rest of the team into the background. We have to have our moment of life or death peril for Gwen because we can't do an episode of Torchwood
Yeah,
without kicking her around some.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but yeah, this is the episode in which we're going to finally find out something about Yanto. This is his formal transition into really being a member of the team and not the boy who makes the tea.
Mm.
So
yeah. And
uh,
as Wingrace points out here, he was Torchwood London. He was
Mm.
part of Torchwood London
right,
first. Yeah.
yeah,
So here's why I asked that question.
mm,
As I'm seeing some of these emotional beats that you guys are referring to, when I'm watching it, it kind of took me out of it because I felt like if I would have seen this maybe if there was 12 episodes or 13 episodes, if this would have been 11 or 12, I
mhm,
think this would have been a much better episode to me than what it was because
mm,
I didn't feel like I, as an audience member, were connected to really care that much that Jack was about to shoot Ianto. I wasn't
mm,
distraught over this character that I've grown to love. I've seen this person that he knows, and he's been hiding this person down below, and we didn't know about it. You see what I'm saying? I didn't have
yeah,
those. And I think if it would have been placed differently, that might have had a better audience reaction, maybe, than what it did.
yeah. I see what you mean because when we killed a Torchwood member in the pilot, you know,
Yeah.
so here, by the rules of the show, we could do it again
Right.
here. But
Yep.
yeah, what if we really got to know Yanto and then this happened?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Then I would have felt, I felt like, and it's not the acting. The actors did a
No,
superb job
no, I
with
think
what
they're
they
great.
had,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at it like I don't have, I don't have the connection that I have hearing Donna Noble go binary, binary, binary
Mhm.
because of my experience with Donna Noble. But with these characters that I've only seen once, it was like, okay, so what? Who cares?
Mhm.
Almost.
Almost.
you know. So let's talk about his decision to take Lisa to Torchwood. Lee, was he wrong to take her to Torchwood and do what he did?
I think under the circumstances, I can imagine that I would do the same thing. But
Mm.
I think I would also ask, or at least I would tell after I'd already done it. Just keep trying to keep that a secret. I think is the big mistake, and that's the dumb part. I think I
Okay.
would have gone to Jack and said, "Look, here's the deal. Don't go in there." But I've not only saved this woman who's very special to me, but I've also saved an entire conversion facility
Yes.
somehow. Uh, is that okay? I don't know.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Clarence, was he wrong?
It's hard. That's his girlfriend. He obviously loved her a lot. But he should have asked himself the question, how much of this being is still his girlfriend? Which that definitely comes into play later. And it's all the people that, we see two people in this episode, but who else fell along the way of him getting her from London to Cardiff? It's a slippery slope, and I can see when your boss is saying there is no exception, zero, you know,
Mhm.
any alien has to go or whatever, or get locked up or whatever. So he's taking that into account when he's making his decision. But also, how does he cover that up? How
Right.
is he able to just? Yeah, that threw me for a loop. Do you have some perception filter over the door or something like
Yeah,
that?
you do have to be willing to buy a lot of that to for this episode to make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Uh,
one of the things that took me out of the episode because, again, I'm not feeling the emotional beats. And then I'm thinking, by hiding her down there in Torchwood, you really are making your main cast look like a bunch of freaking idiots.
yeah,
That, did you never go down there and check? Did you ever wonder why? Think about all these episodes of TV shows where people get suspicious because here comes little Timmy with the plate of food, and why is he taking it
yeah,
downstairs?
that's right.
You know,
Yeah, it's funny that guy eats enough for two people.
yeah, what's going
Yeah.
on?
Mhm.
Oh boy.
So let me ask a question. And again, spoilers for season 10 or series 10 of Doctor Who. But why do you think a companion of the Doctor is able to keep her humanity after a full conversion into a Cyberman? Whereas Lisa could not keep her own after just a partial. So why first, and what makes a person a Cyberman?
Uh,
Lee, I heard that growl.
well, we started playing very, very fast and loose with our understanding of how being a Cyberman works. I mean, there will come a point where you can make yourself not be a Cyberman because you love your baby,
Mm. Oh yeah, that's
right?
true.
I mean, and earlier it had been established that when they make you a Cyberman, they scoop your insides out and put it in the shell.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter how much you love your baby. I just, so that, I mean, those episodes, those 11th Doctor episodes are a lot of fun in some ways, but they also it just completely wrecks everything that we've done before about the concept of what about being a Cyberman. But Danny Pink was able to overcome it as well, wasn't he? Or
Yes, he was indeed.
um,
Yes.
so we've kind of suggested that it's about force of will or strength of personality or something, but it's still pretty vague.
Okay. Clarence,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
Hmm. Yeah, I think Lee hit it on the head. Like, how does all actually work?
Mm.
Um, and certainly when you look at, I'm not going to say the character's name in the future, um, the way that character was able to
Mm.
fight, and we could probably attribute to traveling in the TARDIS or something like that. You know, we could throw something at it, but it's changed over the years so much of how it how some people actually react to the conversion process. So who knows? Who knows?
Yep.
They did say it was partial conversion here, so I can see that playing into it a little bit of how much of her actual Lisa's actual humanity is left.
Yep. And, when
Mm.
Grace brings in, he says, if we want to quibble, this was a Pete's World cyber model, and the one from the earlier or the later story for Doctor
Mm,
Who was Mondazian version. So you
Mm.
could argue that from a technology standpoint, the Mondazian Cybermen being the first Cybermen were not as advanced, perhaps, as this one. Perhaps. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
maybe one was like a BlackBerry and the other one was an iPhone. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Right.
So, what did you guys think of the revelation? So, we're getting more and more revelation about Jack. We're
Mm.
seeing his progression of his immortality. Thoughts on that and other members of how he reacted and how they reacted to him. Thoughts?
That was actually one of my big notes about this script, that I think it's very interesting that really this script gives us an opportunity for, and it may be why they put it up here as number 4, that we see that Jack's authority over the others is unquestioned. He is the boss, and what he says goes.
Yeah.
And that doesn't come out of nowhere. I think that the subtext is that we understand that somehow, somewhere, he has earned that in the eyes of Owen and Toshiko, and very quickly we'll see that Gwen gets it too.
Mm.
You don't question Jack, just do it.
All right, Clarence, I want to take my question but skewer it just a bit for
Mm.
you. Does this align with what we've seen of Jack before at this time? Because from chronologically speaking, the last time we've seen Jack in Doctor Who at this time is on the parting of the ways where the bad wolf resurrects him. So it's a different Jack that we're seeing. Thoughts? Do they parallel together?
Oh yeah, I think he's totally different. In the parting of the ways, he's like a fun loving boy, kind of just
Yeah.
the way he acts. You know, he's all about the fun, the adventure. But by the time we get to here, he seems to have gone through a lot. He's a lot more hardened, a lot more serious, and some of the things he's saying to Yanto in this episode, and like Lee said, his command of his team. He's definitely been through some stuff. I can't remember future episodes, and I don't know how long it's been, but timey wimey. But yeah, it seems like he's definitely changed over the years? Question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll find out, but you know, he's not the same person from the space station with the Daleks. No.
No. And I remember this being, and I'm sure this was the same thing for many Doctor Who fans. This was one of the things that kept me coming back to Torchwood
Mm.
because I wanted to find out what happened to Jack. Why
Yeah.
is Jack different? Oh, and it's Jack. I want to see Jack. But
Mm.
still, the thing I think that brought me back was what made him like this? What was the change? That I found really, really, really interesting.
Yeah, and the question of love comes up in this episode. Have you ever loved anybody? Can
Mm-hmm.
you relate? Which obviously that plays into the next episode. Good setup there, guys. But
Yep.
but but yeah, I like that the fact that that question was brought up, and how relatable is this guy that seemingly can't die and has command over us with an iron fist?
Hmm.
How much humanity is left in him?
Mm. Well, speaking of humanity and taking and scooping your brains out and putting them somewhere else, Clarence, I'll leave this with you.
Oh,
What about Lisa and the twist at the end? I should say, no pun intended, with her rebraining someone else.
Oh boy. Oh, it takes honestly, it kind of takes me to no spoilers here, but relativity a little bit.
hmm.
Um,
Leah's like, hmm.
I think I know what you mean, but I'm not
Okay,
sure. Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah.
she's a real girl now. I mean, she has a
Okay.
body.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was sad, but also it should have been the point of Yanto being like, okay, this is it's really gone too far, and he
Yeah.
still, even amidst all that, he still is in love and wants to save her if he can. Yeah, just creepy. This show has been giving me twists at the end of every episode, and this one got me because I was like, "Oh, pizza girl, get out of there, get out of
Yeah.
there!" And oh man, I really didn't expect what happened to happen, but oh my god,
Lee, what did you think?
I agree with Clarence. It's such a cruel twist, and it's a genuinely affecting moment. Like, well, here's a complete innocent, and now that's the face we're looking at. So what do we do about that? Well, we shoot her in the head. Wow. Okay. Yeah, you're right. This isn't tea time, Doctor Who, is it? Um, but there's also a part of me just still trying to make some story logic out of all this that is just crying inside, saying, well, since when do Cybermen do brain transplants? And apparently she did that one in 30 seconds.
It was a
I,
perfect
would
match. Excellent
I
donor.
yeah. Um Jeez. I just, that strained credibility. I mean, there's so much that you have to be asked to believe in all of this. And that just to me, that was like, okay, it's very convenient to now say, no, no, I put my brain into this body. You know, it's like, when did
very
that happen? Come on.
very
So,
Frankenstein of her.
yeah,
Yes, Bride of
but
Frankenstein.
oh, but it's established in stories like Bride and Frankenstein, for example, that this takes a long time to do. I mean, even
Um,
when Dr. McCoy has the teacher on his head, it takes a while to put somebody's brain in. You know, I just
So I'm thinking way too much into it as I'm watching it because I'm thinking, how did you take your brain out of your cyber head
you
and
took
then
your brain out,
yes,
right?
and then took the other brain, and I'm like, I didn't see any brains anywhere.
Right. Where
Where's the
is
rest
it?
of the brain?
That's it. You just no, no, no. The important point is, I'm Lisa. I don't look like Lisa now, and don't think about all that other stuff. And I don't like that. I don't like. Don't think about that stuff. I'm gonna think about it. I do. Before we get past it chronologically, I do want to mention that Dr. Tanizaka's failed upgrade is, in my humble opinion, the most horrifying makeup effect ever, especially if you think seriously at all about what that experience must have been like for him. I mean, it's like it's a human head and a cyber head that have been sort of merged into the same physical space. And it's just what a complete nightmare. And
yeah,
I appreciated that. As if we're doing a horror movie, it's like, whoa, okay,
yeah,
ow, ow, okay.
pretty bad.
He's about as dead as you can get. So, all right, that's yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Yeah.
Well, Lee, just let me say, at least
Ah,
they didn't do what I was thinking. I was like, Lee would cringe if they would have done this, is to have taken the brain and put it in like this vat of green liquid
Yes.
and left it there as a Doctor Who reference.
Carry that around. Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Well,
So
then hook it up so that you can still hear her voice.
yes,
Right.
yes, indeed. The brain of Lisa.
The brain of Lisa.
All right. So I want to say one here positive. I did
Okay.
like the fact that when they did kill, I did like when they killed Lisa. Okay. I did like that all three, I believe it was three, everybody else in Torchwood was shooting at the same time. I did like the visual of that because it showed a unified stance as
Yeah.
opposed to Jack doing it or Gwen doing it. It was everybody was there for him, it seemed. So that I think was executed well and for me came off well. Thoughts?
Yeah, agreed. It's why you have firing squad, right?
Yeah.
So there's no one person who's the person pulling the trigger. It's
Good point. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, not good point. Excellent
But
point.
I don't know.
I have one other thing for this episode, but before I say my one other thing, let me ask, do either of you have any other things in your notes?
I have a few. I'll just bring it up.
Please,
We'll do our
please,
favorite.
please.
It's
No,
going
no,
to be
no.
a favorite. A favorite.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
All right, Lee, what
Well,
about
now
you?
now we know why they have a pterodactyl in there.
Oh, yeah.
Brains. I eat brains.
Yeah, as very often in dinosaur movies, when a dinosaur is eating something, and I know pterodactyls are not dinosaurs, that you're going, hey, that's an herbivore that your gut eating those people or whatever. And there, I did that for just a second. I thought, hey, pterodactyls are no, they're not. Never mind. Yeah, that was probably what would happen. Okay.
All right. So my item that I had that I was going to bring up was the fact that this episode was written by none other than Chris Chibnall.
Chips.
Who?
Chibnall, our
Oh.
friend Chris Chibnall. So
Never heard of him.
never heard of him. And RTD is guilty of this too, so I'm not picking on Chibnall. But the idea of a half converted cyber person, we see that again with the lone Cyberman.
Yeah.
So it's not like he didn't reuse that. But again, RTD has reused things before, so not just him.
Well, and it's not that isn't a very interesting idea. What happens if you can stop the conversion halfway through or a third of the way through or something? What remains of the person?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think science fiction, that's a very interesting point to ponder. But do you get a Suriyama, gorgeous robot babe? What are the odds of that happening? Now we're into camp.
Yeah.
If that's what happens when you interrupt the process, then I don't know.
I will say he perfected the half human, half regular Cyberman in the lone Cyberman because I find that to be a much more of an interesting type of character than this because it feels very much camp. And I think if you would have had her face half covered, I think you would have had a lot more of that emotional oomph that I was missing because it would have been so tragic because he sees half of her face. He sees her fear. You're not focusing on the fact that she's scantily clad and et cetera and so forth. You're focusing on the dilemma of losing this loved one.
It does raise kind of an interesting unspoken question here. I mean, if she looked like Harvey Dent, would he have been fighting so hard to save her?
Very good point too.
And if not, then boy, you got to question what it is about her that he values. Is all of this because she's pretty? That's kind of icky, isn't it?
Yeah. But the way it's written, we don't get to know that because we see, as I said before, Brunhilde breastplates.
Yeah. So yeah.
So All I can say is favorite quote.
Yeah.
Favorite quote, Clarence Brown.
Oh man, this was kind of hard because nothing just jumped out at me as
Mm.
funny. I love some of the moments with when Jack and Yanto was going at it. But the one I choose because it's the only one I could find readily. When Yanto says her name's Lisa, she's my girlfriend. Why didn't you tell us? Gwen says we could have helped you. Torchwood exists to destroy alien threats. Why would I tell you about her?
Hmm,
It's a fair point,
very
you
fair.
know.
All right, Lee Shackelford, what say you?
Similarly, Jack saying small decisions that become mass slaughter.
Ooh, oh,
Yeah.
that one's good.
Hmm.
All right, so mine is you've been hiding in my basement. That's okay. Draining my power. I can live with that. But
Hmm.
now you're hurting my friends. This has got to stop.
Yeah.
All
Who's in
right.
charge?
Favorite scene. I'll go first with this one. Favorite scene was the conversation between Gwen and Jack, where Gwen questions Jack about shooting her and or Ianto, because he never says yay or nay if he would have shot them.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
just the starkness of difference between the Jack that we had seen before. So that's my favorite scene. Clarence, what say ye?
I have two. The first is going to be when Lisa was charging up and draining the power, and she just gave like this semi-maniacal laugh, like I, I love that. And second, and most favorite is going to be when Lisa was fighting the pterodactyl. Which where are you going to see that anywhere? That
That's true.
Cyberman, a woman, and a pterodactyl fighting each other. Yeah, I was here for that.
Yeah. No, wait. I think I've seen that in. No, you're right. That is
And as Wingray says, special barbecue sauce.
special
Yum.
barbecue sauce.
Yum.
Wow.
All right, Lee, favorite scene.
That whole scene with Gwen, Owen, and Jack facing Lisa for the first time, resulting in Gwen almost getting converted.
Hmm.
That was a nail biter for me. I'm like, will somebody just hit the button and turn that thing off?
Yeah. All right, so let's go directly into final ratings. And Lee, I'll stick with you. Final rating.
Not a favorite. I'm going to give this one 2 pepperoni pizza boxes out of 5.
All right. Clarence, what say ye?
I'm gonna give this 3 yum sauces out of 5, or barbecue yum.
All right. I'm going to give this one, because I keep referring to it over and over, I'm going to give this 2 Brunhilde breastplates out of 5.
You're really
Well,
fixated on those Brunhilde
Yes.
breastplates.
Yeah, I guess
fixated.
well, the image that I'm looking at directly in front of me
Yeah,
is
yeah.
Brunhilde's
To
breastplates.
each their own. I mean,
They
Yeah.
come in pairs. I guess that's.
Yeah, at least I didn't say 2.5. So there you go.
That
That'd be
happens with your conversions.
Oh, I love that. I made you spit out your drink. Oh, all right. Well, this was fun. I have laughed and laughed at this episode, and I have laughed at our conversation. So, guys, anything else that you guys have Oh, Wind Grace, I want to ask in the chat, what was the item that you said that was at the end, that surprise? If you could let us know real quick as we're
I think he said it
winding
already.
up.
The pizza
The pizza.
delivery woman, I believe.
Okay. Well, who was she? Do we
Well,
know?
the fact that she was converted.
Oh, okay.
I think was the thing he was talking about. Maybe not. Maybe he can tell
Maybe
us.
she was Lisa too.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, I had to ask you guys about this. I just thought about it. The double kiss, the Owen and Gwen and Yanto and
Mm.
Jack. So I get why Jack was resuscitating. Um, he was resuscitating Yanto. Is that kind of what we're getting there? It wasn't like a like a Artron energy transfer or anything.
I
I
don't.
don't know. It is kind of ambiguous, isn't it? It's the way that's staged and shot. It's yeah, not entirely sure.
Hmm. But
Hmm.
what was going on with Gwen and Owen? I didn't get the reason that was going down either.
The way that played to me was that they know they're about to die, and that Owen was going to take this opportunity before this is going to be the last thing he does in life.
Ah.
And then he says, that doesn't mean anything. I just
Okay, okay,
But
that
so
makes
that's
sense.
just revealing another aspect of Owen. That's the way that read to me anyway.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah. I took that the same way too. Kind of like, okay, I'm about to die, and screw it.
Hmm.
Kind of.
Go for the gusto.
And when Grace says, I had no memory of her being in the story from the prior watch.
Hmm.
Well,
Oh, I
when
see.
Grace, if it
Yeah.
makes you feel any better, I had no memory of most of the story from the
Right.
prior watch.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Well, go
don't you
ahead.
leave the pizzas at the door in that case. You just stroll on in and
Yeah. Hi
you know.
guys, what's going on?
Okay. Well, let me ask you, Clarence and Lee and myself. I'll ask all three of us.
Hmm.
And I'll go ahead and answer my own question before I ask it. No, absolutely not. But would you be going, if you were delivering a pizza, would you be going into this dungeon looking place to deliver a pizza?
Hey, you gotta go where the order is, man. You gotta.
Oh man, commitment, the
Yep.
service.
That's right. She deserves better.
Okay. Well, that's why I'm not a delivery person. For
Yeah.
anybody that's listening that is a delivery person, much respect to you. But that's why Kyle doesn't go to places he don't
Yeah.
know.
There you go. Do you know everybody I know who does do delivery? And now there's, in the gig economy, there's a lot of us. And everybody I know, they say, why don't people have their numbers on their houses? And it's really
Mm.
made me aware. You just drive down the street just looking, sometimes think, it's true. It's really, really hard to see people's house numbers. I realize that's way off topic. I just thought I'd say it. Anyway.
No, it's not. It's not off topic. It's just reality. And
Yeah.
even in apartments, I see that living in an apartment today, the apartment building
Hmm.
people that are delivering things go from you can tell when somebody's delivering something because of the way they're driving, trying to find the
Yeah.
building numbers, and then hoping to get on the right side of the building when they
Right.
get there. So
Okay. This is 200 to 300, but this is 500 to 600. So where's 400? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
but you know what? We will leave everyone listening to ponder where 500 is,
Yeah.
because guess what? We're finished. And as
We
always,
are.
we are. And as always, what? We will be back next time.
Next time.